And so that's just, it's going to cause friction. You're going to have to break things just to fit in with that. And unless you find some publishers, I don't know, who are happy to take Agile on board, because there are customers who do prefer it, and like they won't take on a company that isn't doing, say, Scrum.
Well, from your experience then, have you found any success with game-related publishers or sources of funding that like the Scrum system and that way of development?
Oh, not at all. I mean, we haven't really tried, to be honest. I mean, number one, our team's too small to do proper Scrum. I wouldn't call it that. But we're using Agile methodologies, and we've got a continuous integration machine, and we write tests for all our engine unit tests. But yeah, we're not doing proper Scrum, and basically we're an indie company. We skip the publishers altogether, concentrate for the distributors. So yeah, I couldn't answer that. But maybe someone else does. Like, I mean, to be honest, I couldn't imagine a game developer walking up and making any demands on a publisher. Like, the power's definitely with the people who have the money. So yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I think you just have to break it in the face of publisher demands, I guess. But hopefully, if you got a good working relationship, you could try and sneak it in through the back door and say, okay, like we'll give you your milestones, but we're also going to give you a monthly update as well on top of that. You go, yeah, cool, something for nothing. So hopefully, get them used to that idea. And so.
One thing we did with development during our last project, with the publisher, we said we had a 2-week or a 10-day sort of planning cycle. So if they have any demands on us, it's going to take us 10 days to action. So we can't just do it overnight or by next Monday. And that was just it was just a safeguard. So it sort of like it allowed them to ask us to change something. And then they had like 4 or 5 days to either forget or change their minds again. So it wasn't like crunch for 2 days and then they send it off and then they're like, oh, actually we will check with Chris. Just a 2-week deadline.
I guess that's what the product owners are for as well. And so one thing that Scrum's big on is really isolating the developers from basically everybody who can just look over their shoulder and go, oh, wouldn't it be easy to just add in? Because games are really visual as well. Everyone wants to have their say. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be really easy if you just make that animate and like make a little guy be able to take his hat off and throw it in the air when he's excited. Yeah, sure, I can do it, but I'm just going to have to drop everything that I'm going to do, the really important business needs and the things that are actually going to sell this game. And so that the monthly cycle means, nothing goes in until the next cycle, and then they get prioritised. So if there's something there's a greater business need for, say, like having working levels or having controls that actually work or the game not crashing is more important than the dude throwing his hat up in the air and wins or something. And so it's so the Scrum system sort of orders them and prioritises them. And the product owner, it's their job to just catch all that and talk to the customers and go, yeah, cool, and find out what they want and then prioritise. And the product owner decides what's important, not the developers. And so they're the ones who represent the customer, but also take all these conflicting ideas and thoughts and wants from the customer and channels them into a set list of priorities and what the team's actually going to do. And so it isolates you from that. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if you just do this? Or wouldn't it be easy if you put that in?
Question for you: have you tried a shorter cycle in 4 weeks or not?
We actually
I haven't done it. I don't know if it works or not.
Yeah, we actually we would change it based on the turbulence of the requirements. So the project I was working on, like there was lots of politics going on, and everything could have changed direction within a week. And so during that time, we said, okay, we're not really sure what's going on here or who our bosses are. So we're going to cut down the sprint cycles to 2 weeks from 4 weeks. And it's like, now, okay, we're in the clear. We've got approval for all this, and we just have to make these big leaping sort of changes. We want to, and we've got a clear goal in mind for the whole year. Nothing much is going to change now, so we switch all on this cycle, and, which isn't really part of the Scrum methodology, but we found that worked it, and we could easily just change it on the fly depending on what's the things in the backlog, and because there is a bit of overhead because you're taking basically 3 days off out of every month to do nothing but planning. for like your E3 meetings for your demonstration, and then your planning meeting, and then the sprint retrospective when you sit down and talk about how you do all those little games, like you draw little smiley faces and sad faces for everything that you did and what went right, what went wrong, and who you'd like to thank, and then come up with a new name for the sprint, come up with some stupid thing. And it's all just sort of like getting focused on the next goal. So it's not like it's totally anarchic, like you are actually spending 3 whole days planning and then planning and architecture meetings all through that as well. So like people criticise Agile as not just diving in and doing this stuff. But there is actually, I found there's a lot more planning than just doing all your requirements up front and the traditional waterfall method. And yeah, if you are doing a 2-week cycle, I mean, it's pretty, you're wasting a lot of time doing this. There's a lot of overhead, and you just have to decide, is it worth all this overhead to be more flexible? Yeah. Yeah, I was actually thinking, I don't know how we're doing for time. How long have we got?
I think it's about 10 to 15 minutes to go.
Oh, okay. I just wonder if that question will do something, because I was planning on doing a paper UI. So it's basically an agile thing to one of the techniques. So basically, in 5 minutes, you design a UI for a game. Using bits of paper, and then one person is the computer to put together the new menu, and then there's a person playing the game. But I don't think we've got time for that. Unless someone really wants to play with some textures and scissors.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Tool that you mentioned, ScrumWorks. Do you have any
Yeah.
other suggestions, or anybody else suggestions for an Agile Scrum type tool for a small, medium-sized?
Yeah, I looked around. Actually, I haven't looked for one for about a year. But yeah, ScrumWorks, you don't get the full functionality, but the base is free. Yeah. The ScrumWorks Lite, which is basically all you need. And I mean, at the moment we're using OpenOffice. I'm using OpenOffice at the moment for our backlog, but we're having problems with conflicts and stuff all the time. So I wouldn't mind moving to Google Docs. But yeah, like when the project's over, we'll probably do that. Because I found like our team is so small and ScrumWorks is a bit heavy because we're not actually using Scrum properly. But yeah, does anyone have any suggestions?
I was going to say, how many is not enough for Scrum?
I've done 3 with difficulty.
Yeah.
Like 4 is fine, and up to 8 is good. But then you can scale it up. Like I was in a Scrum team with 120, or working with Scrum with 120 people. And to do that, you have 10 or 12 little teams, yeah. And then you have this Scrum of Scrums. So it's sort of like this big fractal sort of hierarchy where all the little Scrums get together and they have a representative to go and meet up, and then they have their own Scrum. And then once a week they would have a Scrum of Scrums meeting. And so it's this big sort of fractal tree that, so you can, I've heard there's things like 1,000 people all working in this Scrum and it all holds together. That 120 is the typical experience.
In terms of scale, one of the big problems we have in my company is that we've got a good number of people, but everyone's kind of working on different things. It's an animation studio, not games. But it means we've kind of got different stakeholders in like the art department has needs, and like servicing has needs, and modeling has needs.
Yeah.
So you end up with a lot of people working on their own little thing with their own little stakeholder.
Yeah.
And we try to cram everyone together in a Scrum, and it ends up that no one really cares that much about what anyone else is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution to that kind of thing is. Maybe we shouldn't be using Scrum.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe the requirements are different. Because that's the thing. Like Scrum is designed for a particular scenario, and it's like if your business sounds like this, then use Scrum. If it doesn't, use something different. Like if you're making pacemakers or implants or something, then or medical implants, then you need to have a whole different set of guidelines. Or if you're doing military spec stuff, then again you've got this whole different set of guidelines that you have to follow, and that doesn't fit in really well with Scrum. And like it's really set what you have to do, and yeah, maybe like if you've got like really tiny things like one person buddied up with a particular department or project.